All right. Well, as usual, this is how life goes. Um, we I sat down, I got everything set up, I went ready to broadcast, and my mother-in-law walked in, and so I had to go chit-chat with her for a little while, and so it took me a while. I had to restart the clock, but either way, I'm in here, and I wanted to share a few things. Just what's been on my mind. Obviously, my brain has been on a little bit of a hiatus, not by choice necessarily. Life's just been hectic. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of crazy things going on. We had a weekend set up to go, and Tony couldn't make it down. We had the next weekend set up to go. We were going to record and do some live shots and live shows on Saturday night as our usual. And we had a friend, a family friend, just in a horrible, freak accident. It was killed, and so the following weekend we're there at the memorial, and so it's just it's been crazy. And so I just I took the time and we took a little bit of a break, and I've been doing a lot of stuff. And obviously now the biggest thing is we're dealing with this stupid coronavirus quarantine, being asked to shelter in place. And so we're dealing with all of that stuff. And so I know Tony and the crew up there with Don't Make This Weird, and of course Heather on her own podcast was doing that this past Sunday, and we had set up to where she was going to come down here. We were going to set up and do the show from the man cave here, and we couldn't do that. And so I just, a lot of stuff going on, and so I wanted to sit down and do a quickie for you guys and just say hi and say we're still out here, and we're going to get back to our normal big broadcasts with all of the stuff that we love to do, and conversate and drink and laugh and have a good time and share our thoughts and our hearts, really. Thoughts are one thing, but what you care about is more important, and sometimes you can't even articulate that as well. But today, I just wanted to talk about how, sometimes things get deferred and you got to roll with the punches. You got to go with things, and just what it is. So what I've been doing, to let you guys know, there's a shot right there. If you can see in the upper, let's see, for you guys, it'd be upper, over there by the bass guitar. So that's upper left-hand, should be the left-hand corner. There's a little bit of new plywood over there. Over in the back where you see the light kind of bleeding out the shot, there's some more plywood over there. So I've been doing a ton of work to the man cave because we're sequestered. We're sheltering in place. And then if you can see the light coming in to the right of the screen, right over there, I put a new set of double doors in. So the man cave is going through a lot of changes. The changes that I've done already, everybody just loves. But the changes that I'm continuing to make are doing a lot of stuff. And so I just wanted you guys to see that and check it all out. And of course, I'm here doing the broadcast by myself. Not that I'm by myself. If you look real close right there behind me, on the side of my head, Vince is still crashed out on the couch from the night before. He was probably on here playing a lot of video games and whatever on either the computer or the or on the PlayStation, but he's crashed out. So either way, I'm here, and we're just doing stuff. And so I'm gonna try to do, since I'm sheltering in place, I'm gonna try to do a few of these. We'll see how they go. I do like to sit down, but for me, it's the logistics. I don't know about you guys, but it's the logistics all the time of being able to just sit down. Ben's been working on, he got his new computer put up, and so he's been working on editing some of the little broadcasts that we're going to do, the little recorded ones, which are the this and that. So we're riding around in the pickup truck on our way to work, on the way home from work, and all the guys are in the truck, and we're doing a just whatever's on the top of our head. Usually it's music. A lot of times there's a song comes on the radio and we kick the GoPro on, and we're going to add a couple more GoPros just to make it more fun, and so Benny can not be frustrated by the shots that he's limited with. But we're doing a bunch of that stuff, and so we're continuing to move forward. Obviously, I have my own construction company, and we do a lot of work. We have a lot of work on our plate right now, and I even had a conversation with one of my clients this morning, and just everything's on delay, everything's on hold, and we could be working on a couple of projects technically because they're residential, and people are their homes, but they're not living. It's like, how do you shelter in place if your house is under remodeling? So, but those houses are buttoned up, and more importantly, some of my, the guys who are just like, you know what, I really don't want to go out in this, and I understand it. But the biggest problem with this whole thing is the fear factor. It's the hype. It's the over-exaggeration of it, and you can look up the numbers, and I've looked up a bunch of the numbers, but it comes down to the fact that very few people have died from this, far less than have died from the flu every year. Excuse me, that's my biscuits and gravy saying hello. But very few people have died, and the mortality rate that they projected is even coming in even lower. So if you do get sick, you get a cough, you get fever. If your immune system's already compromised, well, of course, then you could die of anything. You could die of a slip and fall. You could die of any number of things. And so it's like they're looking at somebody who's just passing away because they had a heart condition, and then they test their blood and they go, or test whatever they're testing, the nose test, and they're going, oh, they had coronavirus, so it must have been the coronavirus. And it's all BS, man. All the kids are sitting at school. It was cool. The other day, the kids were hanging out. We had a birthday party for Grandma and Al. We were real close to our 10 people limit, and if we said if one or two more people came over, we're going to have to hang out in shifts and everybody leave. It was all BS. You try to honor certain things, but you get to a certain point and you go, whatever. So anyways, the kids were over here, and Jazzy and I we got up the next day, Sunday, and we were hanging out, and later on, I don't know what time it was. Maybe it had to be close to dinner time. And I said, I'm in the mood for Taco Bell. So Jazzy and I jumped in the truck and we drove, we're just real close to Taco Bell, about 1.5 miles. So we drove down there. But in the drive, we got to the one traffic light, and I looked over and I said, hey, Jaz, what do you think of all this stuff? Sheltering in place, we hadn't had the order yet. That wasn't until Monday. But I said, what do you think about all this stuff? Because she's out of school. She's at home. And I assumed, I didn't go into detail with her, but I assume they're doing some kind of stuff online classes. But she is an extremely popular girl. She's not a stuck-up little, spoiled kid. She is a down-to-earth, just beautiful heart. And she's got a lot of little friends that look up to her and really, look to her for cues, not directions or advice necessarily, but cues. They look to her mannerisms and her way of doing things as a way of going, okay, that's the way you do stuff, because she cares deep. She's got a big heart. She's just a sweetheart. And I said to her, I said, Jazzy, what do you think about all this, coronavirus stuff? And she paused, just long enough to, really think and double check what she was going to say. Not too long, but just enough to where I knew she was not just throwing something out that I wanted to hear, or that, that somebody else had said. This was hers. And she just looked at me and she goes, I think it's stupid. I laughed and I said, yeah, I agree with you, honey. I think it is stupid. I think it's overhyped. It could have been handled better. I think Trump has done an absolutely fabulous job, because he got ahead of this thing, and he got ahead of it the only way that he could. Because if he would have waited, if he would have shot this down and said, this isn't that big of a deal, more people die of the flu, which is true, more people die in car accidents every day. It's like, if he would have put that, Michigan, we've got, I think as of today, we've got, I don't know how many thousands of cases, like 6,000 cases or something. I haven't looked it up today. Maybe I'll click over here on the side and see what's up. But we've only got 20 deaths, 10, 20 deaths. Okay, more people have died in bathtubs, slip and falls. Look that up. You can fact check me. I don't give a shit. But the point is that she said, this is stupid. She's out of school over something that's killing less people than the common flu, and we don't freak about the flu every year. Trump he had a town hall meeting there at the White House the other day. They broadcast it on Fox, and he answered a bunch of those. Awesome. And then he's come out with the task force almost every night and answered those. And I thought he's been extremely. He's been tearing it up, and I really appreciate that. But I wanted to get on here and just encourage everybody, keep doing what you're doing. Everything's going to come back. I got a few of the things that I want to bring forward. One of the things I want to talk about in more detail is this social distancing. And I've taught in years past on when we had Heartland Fellowship up and running full time, which a lot of you are tuning into Heartland Fellowship the TV channel right now because YouTube won't let me go live stream on my actual Don't Make This Weird or not Don't Make on my actual This Is My Brain. I looked at the Don't Make This Weird over here because all of our stuff's on the same platform. But on my This Is My Brain, they won't let me go live stream because I don't have enough followers. They changed the rules. Anyways, so I have to go on the HFTC, and I didn't go on the Twitch today, which is fine because I couldn't figure out the button to push because I'm here by myself. And so I usually have somebody that goes, oh, you just push this. And I go, okay, that's the one I push because there's 3 of these buttons over here and they look exactly the same. Which one? So I just went with I know the YouTube. I've done that myself before. But anyways, there's a few other things. The social distancing is a big one because I've taught in years past in the church channel of how one of the foundations of our faith out of Hebrews chapter 6 is laying on of hands. That's a huge one. And what I teach on laying on of hands is not necessarily what some of you may have experienced in church, good or bad, with laying on of hands, but what the essence of laying on of hands is, and that's that physical contact. That's that connection. How children, when they're born, what they understand more than anything is that physical connection, that physical touch. And I've got a picture. It's pretty cool. I didn't get one with Al, and I didn't get one with Nicole, but we managed to somebody snapped a shot at some point with me laying down, and Vince was laying on my chest as a baby, and like he was probably sleeping just like he is now, but in a smaller version. But he was laying there on my chest, and somebody got a snapshot of that. Well, years later, he had a son, little Bubby. You've probably seen Bubby in a couple of my videos running through the room. But somebody got a picture of Bubby, and I don't know if they did that on purpose or what it was, but they did that. Hey, Tony's on, yeah. Good to see you, brother. I'm gonna get this Skype set up so we can do this together, eh? But anyway, so Bubby, he's got this picture. So we've got these 2 pictures. I don't even know if it's up in my closet up at the house. I just remembered. But I got these pictures with my son laying on my chest, and then I've got my son with his son laying on his chest, and he gave it to me at one point in a frame with the 2 pictures side by side. And I wish I would have had one with Al and with Nicole, because I know I did the same exact thing with both of them. Al was a little bit bigger, but either way, my point is that children, when they're smaller, they understand that physical connection more than anything. And then they understand your voice, not your words, but your voice, the reverberation of your voice. And so I was looking at, when I talk about this social distancing, I was thinking about that, on how this is having a profound effect on how we are affectionate with people. One of the builders that we worked for, he's a big guy, big jovial guy, just a really great guy. And he comes up and he came up the other day and he just paused and he stayed his distance. And he's just like, no, I'm going to stay my distance. I'm going to stay my distance. He's like, I'm just being overly cautious. And he's like, I'm just going to stay my distance. And we got to talking a little bit more, and he goes, dude, he's like, he's like, I'm a hugger, man. And I said, so am I. I'm a hugger. You come up to me, man, I'm going to hug you. I'm going to embrace you. And to me, that is that connection with people. And it kind of, one of the things that was very profound to me was the, over there in Italy. And there's some details all behind the scene about how, they're elderly, their population is older, and this may have, they may have allowed this to, I don't know, they may have allowed this to come in to kind of clean out their population a little bit of the older people, but they're extremely affectionate over there. They're that's where the two cheek kiss that we see in the mafia movies, that's just their normal culture without the mafia aspect to it. That's how they operate. But I was thinking about that, so I want to go into detail more about that. I want to go into some other details about just some other really cool things that I've been thinking about. I'm always thinking, but I don't always take the time to sit down and articulate them and share them with you guys. But I want to start doing that more and more. I really miss Tony's tuning in, and I love it. But I really miss our our sit downs at the long bar. Guys can see the long bar back behind me. It's cluttered with stuff, not as bad as it has been, but it's got some stuff laying up there. But we're going to get that back set up. And I got a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm working on here in the barn. But I wanted to get on here this morning and just say hi to everybody and say, hey, keep your chin up. This is going to come through. There's a bunch of stuff that I want to share. Like I said, Benny's working on some of the stuff that we've recorded before. And, there's some prophetic words that came forth years ago, and I want to touch on some of those because of what the Lord has shared with me, and it'll help you guys. But also, I just wanted to get in here and encourage everybody and say hi. We haven't gone anywhere. We just logistically, like I said, Tony was going to make it down, and his weekend got jammed and screwed up, and so we rescheduled, and we were ready to go. And when Tony comes down, he brings Nate and Nate, and then we figure out who else is going to join us on the broadcast. Sometimes it's just him and I. Sometimes it's we had James and his dad join us last time, and that was great. Right, I think we did that the day before the Super Bowl, and that was fabulous. But we were going to come down and just slam a bunch of stuff together and tear it up, and then our family friend, my mom's friend from high school that she's reconnected with over the last few years, and I met her son, and he's just a beautiful soul. And I was at work, and Mom called, and she said, he was killed in a car accident. I'm like, are you kidding? He's 29, almost 30 years old, and just brilliant, just a guy that illuminated the room and just changed everybody's life that he touched. When I met him, the first time I met him, we struck up a conversation, and we literally talked for 2-3 hours. That's just the type of guy he was. And it just was outgoing and beautiful. And so it was really a tough time. The funeral home was packed. They tried to do their best to make it a celebration of life, but it was hard because this was somebody who was in the prime of their life, ready to just the world right there. And so I know his passing has inspired a lot of people to take stock and to be that much more aware of where they're at. Hey, Candy's joining in. You'll have to, if you just joined in, you'll have to go back and listen. I ramble for a little bit, but anyways, so we had, this tragedy come forth, and then we came down and we did the St. Patty's Day party down here, and our turnout was low, obviously, because people were that was ramping up and people were starting to freak out. But the people that were here and were I'd say they're all family, because just about everybody that was here is connected to somebody some way, and it was very familiar faces, and we had a great time, absolutely great time, great music, great fellowship, just a blast. My mom, during the birthday parties, it was the same during St. Patty's Day, but during the birthday parties the other day, because Al and Mom, my oldest son, and my mom are 2 days apart on their birthdays. And so it's a tradition. It's been since, Al's 29 now. So, 28, sorry. They've been doing that I said 29 because Grandma used to help Al remember his birthday. She'd say, how old you are plus 29 is Grandma's age. And so I think that's right. I don't remember. Anyways, she always said 29 and holding for a long time. But anyways, Al's, 28. And so we've been doing this for probably 27, 28 years, where we come together with Grandma's birthday and Al's birthday. And at one point, and this is, like I was saying, it's the same as St. Patty's Day, Mom looked up and she got my attention, and she looked, and there were people over at the long bar. Let's see, right there. It's really hard to do. It's like trying to mess with your eye. Let's see if I can get the finger right there. There were people at the long bar. There were people at the big bar that I built, which we got to get into the introduction and stuff. And then there were people over here, God, it's hard to do that. Go backwards. People over there on the stage. And she said, just look. And there was all these people here. I think we had 25, maybe 30, probably about 25. Everybody just hanging out. And there was all these little conversations going on, maybe 4 or 5 different conversations at the bar, at the long bar, at the stage. And Mom just nudged me. And there was all just this murmur of good. She just said it was good vibes. It was just good vibes of everybody just, there was just this good feeling of, hey man, we're just hanging out. We're just connecting with everybody. And it was really cool. And, I think that's the biggest thing for me is everybody stay connected. If you got to do it like this, like I'm doing today, it is what it is. I was talking to my buddy Matt Pesta. You guys have seen him on the show before, and we're ramped up. He was contacting me 2 weeks ago, and he's like, dude, what's up with the show? And we got to get back on. And I'm like, dude, I want you back on. And he's got a buddy that he wants to bring on and have some discussions and just open up and have a great conversation. But it's that connection with people and that good vibe that Mom was picking up on, and she pointed it out obviously on the birthday night, but it was there for the most part during St. Patty's Day, and that's what it's about. That's what I love about having the man cave down here, and that's what I love about doing the broadcast and having friends come in, because you guys know when we do the broadcast live, there's usually 3 or 4 people in the room. They're sitting on. You can't necessarily see them, but they're in the couch or they're doing something. Or sometimes Sean will be here, Tony's son, and he'll be playing on the PlayStation, or somebody else is in here and they're doing all sorts of stuff while we're over there, doing the broadcast. And I just love it's kind of like our in-studio audience. And you guys saw on the last broadcast with James and his dad and me and Tony that everybody came over at the end, and it was just this big group. And that's what I love, because it's connection with people beyond anything else. No matter what you know or what you think about or what's going on, it's that big connection with people. And I think that's one of the agendas behind the scene right now, is trying to control that connection with people, and is trying to limit that. I mean, I'm going to go over to Best Buy a little bit later today, because 1917, which is a beautiful movie. I love it. I'm a World War II not all wars, but you go Vietnam back, or even World War II more importantly. There's only a couple of Vietnam ones that I really like, but you go back from that, and if they're done well, I really get into those types of movies because they're historic and nostalgic, and some of them are fictional, obviously. But that's just one of the things that I really like. We have Band of Brothers in the Pacific, and my boys, Al especially, will take it from me. He'll come up, so I had to buy him his own box set of Band of Brothers. I'm like, here's your own copy. But I'm going to head over to Best Buy to pick up 1917, because we pre-ordered it on Steelbook, and I'm going to go pick that up. And I'm going to have to go curbside, and I'm going to have to show my ID, and they're going to bring it out to me because it's already paid for. And there's a guy there, one of the greeters, name's Kevin. I've known him for 10 years. It's got to be. And yeah, Fury is amazing. You're right, Tony. Fury is absolutely amazing. I had Tony down here, and that's a fictional account based on true elements of actual tank battle in World War II, but the actual storyline itself is a fictional account, but it's true to the spirit and essence of what those tank drivers went through, and that's one of my absolute favorite movies. That Saving Private Ryan. If I'm into it at that moment, I'll throw on Schindler's List and just have that playing in the background. Love We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson. There's what's the other? And I already said Band of Brothers. There's a few other ones, but and the new Midway. Midway was amazing. Yeah, the USS Indy. But this new one, 1917, it's shot in one continuous shot. And Vince and I actually went and caught it in the theaters just before it went out of theaters. And it was just, we were 20 minutes in, and I looked at him and I goes, is this the same continuous shot? And he goes, yeah. And we were just, the cinematography, let alone the storyline, is compelling and beautiful. And so I'm going to go pick that up. But long story short, I'm going to walk in there. I'm going to flash my ID. They're going to hand me my movie through the window, and I'm going to go, okay. And there's this gentleman there that I've known for the last 10 years that every time I go in there, we embrace, we hug. It's a big hug. And this is just a guy that works at Best Buy, but I've gotten to know him over the years. So when I see him at Best Buy, it's an embrace, and I'm not going to be able to do that. And that's one of the things that is the most difficult for me in this moment, is not that difficult. I'm not like struggling, but I'm saying it's one of the things in the back of my mind, because this is my brain. This is one of the things in the back of my mind that's bothering me. That's just gnawing at me, is there's an agenda to keep us at a distance from each other. And they're using whatever they can do, whether it's, they put out that meme with everybody on their cell phones on the subway. And then somebody else puts next to it, they put the picture of everybody reading the newspaper, and they go, listen, there's always been people focused on their own deal. So now it's a little screen. Before it was a newspaper, deal with it. The point is, do you make a concerted effort to connect with people? Those of you that know me, I go out of my way to connect with people, especially the kids, especially the little kids. When the kids come in, when my grandkids come in, or James's kids come in, or any of the kids that are connected to me that show up, I go out of my way, to either tease them or I. Hopi's the only one that I really don't have to do that. And you guys have seen Hopi. But most of my kids, I'm like, you better get over here and give Grandpa a hug, or, give Yaya a hug. To some of them, Yaya, because I'm not a grandpa to them, but close enough. But I'll be like, you better come over here and get some love. And they do that. There you go. Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers got a hug. That's right, Tony. But that's, with the kids, I want to connect with people, because connection, sometimes you can change somebody's day with a hug. You can change somebody's day with a touch on their hand and just connecting with them. And I think that's one of the big things that's going on right now, is this social distancing. There's some benefit. I will not discount that. But if that was the case, if we're going to receive all of this benefit from social distancing for this particular situation, then why aren't we doing it for the flu every year, where 35 to 75,000 people a year in America die? That's their statistics. 35,000 to 75,000 people per year die of the flu. Yet we haven't been practicing social distancing with that. And then if you look at the actual numbers, you guys can go online, you can look up the numbers of how many people have died up to this point, and you go, okay, well, how many people have passed away? I was looking it up on this screen over here earlier. I don't have it up right now, but right now I got speed test over there. I was making sure I got good bandwidth, and apparently I do. But I was thinking about that whole idea of distancing ourselves, and we haven't done it when things have been actually going on. We didn't do it when we had the swine flu and all this other stuff. I don't remember where I was with the swine flu. I'm like, that was an epidemic? That was considered something we had to pay attention to? Really? Whatever. But my point is, they're always, who was it? One of Obama's guys. He said, there's a famous video of him, and he says, you never want to let a good crisis go to waste. And so I see the agendas here, and I'm very proud of Trump, because when you listen to him, he's trying to do everything he can to stay away from all of that crap. They're like, don't you want to nationalize these businesses and just take them over? He's like, no, I don't. I don't want to even, no. They're coming to us. They're offering their services. Why would I want to go in and strong arm these people? And he's very positive and very upbeat. And then you got the BS on the other sides that are like, they're wanting the economy to implode. They're wanting all this stuff. And I see them using this agenda to create this social distancing between us so that we don't connect in the way that God intended. They're using it to, really mess with the economy. Like I said, we're shut down here in Michigan. It started midnight on Monday, and so we've got 3 weeks, and we could technically go to work. We got a couple houses. They're tarped in and buttoned up for the time being, but we could go into those houses and because they're technically open to the elements, we could go in and work on those. But we just, when I talked with the guys initially, they were like, okay, let's do it. And what it came down to was, the next day they all got up and they're like, we would go, boss, if you really wanted us to go, but we don't really want to go. We'd rather, just shelter in place. And I understand that. But that's one of the problems that I have is this social distancing. The other problem is the fear aspect of it. And so there's a lot of crap going on, and it's just, you got to be vigilant, you got to be wise, and you got to do what you're hearing in your spirit, in your gut. And you've got to, do what you're supposed to do. But at the end of the day, you've got to assess these situations and assess what's going on. So I'm going to get back on here. I'm going to try to do this every morning. We'll see if I get a chance to do that. Like I said, I popped on, I set everything up and got everything ready to go. And I couldn't figure out the button. Tony, you're going to have a conversation with me because I'm only broadcasting on YouTube because I didn't know what button to push for the restream. So we're going to have to conversate on that. But I got on here and of course I hit the timer and I'm like, all right, I got a minute. And I do that just so that people can come in and get the beginning of the conversation versus I've been streaming for 5 minutes and now you're joining and you missed the preamble, which it's usually a pre-ramble. But anyways, I did that and I hear the door behind me. And so Mom walked in, she had crickets, she's feeding the lizards, and I know you got me, buddy. I appreciate it. She's feeding the lizards, and so I had to go over there and conversate. So at one point I paused the counter, and then I came back over and I restarted the counter. I'm like, dude, okay. So that's the way it's been going. I mean, little things and big things. Like I said, we were gonna get together, Tony and I, and that fell through. And then we were gonna get together the next weekend, and I had to go over to Grand Rapids and spend the weekend, in a just comforting and being with my mom and being with her friend and just, trying to get through, a horrible event, and assess it. I mean, I looked at him and she looked at me and I grabbed her, my friend's mom, and I just, embraced her, and she says, I don't know why this happened. And I said, I don't either. I just don't know. I don't know how a 29-year-old young man, almost 30 years old with his full life ahead of him and just brilliant mind gets taken out like that. And he was with two other buddies that were also killed. So, I mean, it's all three of them were taken out. And I go, I don't have an answer, And later on, I said to her, one of the things that occurs to me that's coming to my mind is a quote from Blade Runner, but it's a truth. I said, the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And I said, I don't say that to be crass. I don't say that to be, in any way, other than encouraging, but that's to say that he lived such a bright life, that we can't change the fact that he's gone now. So you look at it from the standpoint of he lived he packed into 29 years, almost 30 years, what some people don't get into 70, 80 years, of living and touching and connecting. I mean, we went to this big bar afterwards, and the place, it was a huge place. It's 2 stories, and it was packed. Downstairs, upstairs, just packed full of friends and loved ones that he had connected with. And it was just a beautiful outpouring of people. But again, it's a matter of, we've had a bunch of different things that come up, and I go, man, dude, am I ever going to get to do my show? Cause we want to crank this show out. We want to knock things out and get everything going. And every time I turn around, there's another thing going, hey, not going to do it. And I go, no, we're going to persevere. So if you take anything from today's broadcast, persevere, just keep pushing through, keep going, because the only one that can ever judge your success or failure is you, and you've got to go. You got a great quote? Oh, he's going to look it up. I got a great quote, and I'm looking it up. Look it up. Hurry up, bro. Dude. But if you take anything today, just take the fact that no matter what's going on, no matter what you're doing, keep pushing forward. Keep going. You're the only one that can judge the success or failure of your own life. It's not about the bank accounts. It's not about the possessions. I do want to talk about that at certain points because There's an agenda out there about possessions, and they're trying to the powers that be, the nefarious powers that be, the puppet string masters are trying to get us into one of my podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis. They're talking about he just went off on this rant about tiny houses, and I'm like, okay, but they're trying to reduce us. Property taxes and a bunch of these other things are restrictions on our ownership of land, and that was one of the things that the founding fathers attempted to put in. It was in one of the drafts of that. Your voting rights depended on land ownership, because that meant you had a vested interest. And they're like, well, we can't do that because some people, they live in cities, and the cities weren't big like they are now, but they wanted to put that provision in that, hey, if you're going to vote, you need to own land, and you need to have a vested interest, and you need to do this. And why? Because land ownership is I'm going to get into it, because what I was meditating on was that in the beginning, the Lord gave us the earth. It says that he says, I give you the earth and all the seed-bearing trees to subdue it and to garden, to husband it, to cultivate it as if it was, your big garden. That's why doing gardening, and I know Tony's getting ready to get his garden, if he already is, and have his seedlings planted. I haven't been able to do my garden since we moved in here with Mom and Dad, and now Dad's passed, but I want to get back to doing my gardening again, because it's a connection with the land. But the whole point is that when I'm talking about land ownership and ownership in general, the reason, and a lot of people, the reason I thought about this was I was listening to Vince had the YouTube on, and he was banging through a whole bunch of really cool songs that we like, and one of them, he was doing covers. He was watching Chris Cornell, and just the music that we had overlooked or not seen that Chris Cornell had done. And at one point, he was doing this interview with what's his name, the XM radio guy. It'll come to me. I can see it. Howard Stern. He was doing this interview with Howard Stern as Chris Cornell, and he's got an acoustic guitar, and he's talking about that. There's a little bit of this intro of this whole interview, and he says, he's talking about John Lennon and how much of an influence he was, and Chris Cornell goes into this acoustic version of Imagine, and one of the lines in there, and I've heard this. There's a Perfect Circle version of it, and obviously the original version by John Lennon himself. But the line in it is, imagine no possessions. It's easy if you try. And then he goes through the diatribe of it. And I really began to meditate on it after I heard it the other day. And I thought, no, that's a mistake. That's an error in perspective, because the problem is not possessions. And then you go to the Fight Club quote where he says, the things we own end up owning us. That's a more correct perspective. You don't want to get to the place where the things you own control you to the point that you can't do without them. But at the same time, according to the ordination of God, of how the Lord set it up, we are he gave in the beginning, he created us, and then he said, here, the earth is yours. Take care of it. Be a good steward of it. And we go, so that's why there's such a struggle. That's why John Lennon would sing about it, because he didn't have that perspective to understand that, no. Possession. And it's funny because he sings that song, Imagine No Possessions. And I go, here's a guy that had the royalties of the Beatles. He didn't have to work a job. He could sit at home all day. He could do whatever he wanted. He wrote music all day. And I go, yeah, of course. You get these certain artists that go, well, I don't understand why people have to have all this stuff. And I go, look at where you're living and get some perspective. That you're not saying this to the person that's struggling paycheck to paycheck to make a living. They're not looking at you go, oh, imagine no possessions. Really? I need to take my kids school shopping so that they have some new clothes for this year's school because they wore the ones out last year. I need to go buy groceries, not send my servant out to buy groceries. It's like, I'm not saying John Lennon had servants, but I'm saying a lot of times that type of message comes from people who don't have to struggle day in and day out. Oh, you don't need all that. And I go, you're missing the point. The point is that the things we have are meant to be tools in our lives for us to help each other, to grow, to do what we're doing. So I'm going to do a shot on that and or broadcast on that one soon. I got 4 or 5 things right on the tip of my brain, and I'm going to write down a few more notes on those and be a little bit more articulate and a little bit more together instead of rambling all around. But I wanted to get on here and ramble for a little bit. Wednesday, what's today? March 20. I can't even read my watch. 25th. March 25th. Oh, still can't find it. Well, you're going to have to look it up, share it with me, and we're going to have to mess with this Skype, Tony, so that we can get on here, and I'm going to screen you in on one of these sides over here, cuz look at this one. I got this really cool combo one. Let's see. Yeah, see? Now there's 2 shots of me, like you needed 2 shots of me. But so I got a bunch of things in my brain that I'm thinking about, and I just wanted to get on here because I get stir crazy, and if I don't share with you guys pretty soon, I'll probably explode. So with that, I am going to leave you guys. I think you put up with me long enough. I thank you guys for tuning in, and those that are catching this on Restream, I appreciate you guys, and just keep your head up. You're the only one. Again, you're the only one. Best shot ever. Thanks. You're the only one that can control, you have to take authority and be the one who controls your destiny and your purpose and your walk. And you're the one that controls your happiness or sadness. Don't let anybody else dictate to you. And even in this tough time, and this is nothing. I mean, this is all pretty much man-made, man-contrived, the shelter in place. I mean, we're not in the Great Depression where you literally, we go to the grocery store and we're whoever's got the runs right now is having a difficult time, but everybody else who's stocked up on 14 years of toilet paper is okay. But we're not in a season like they were in the Great Depression or some of these other times where there literally wasn't anything to stock our shelves are being restocked daily, and I saw something, I think it was Chris or somebody else. No, it was whatever. It was on Facebook, and I don't get on there much, but I was reading through it last night, just a little bit of boredom, and somebody said, if people would just chill out for a few days, we would restock. The shelves would get restocked and be full, and the supply chain would level out. He said, but as long as everybody's panic shopping, it's going to keep looking bare in certain areas. Now, the liquor aisle, thankfully, still has plenty of food in there, and there's plenty of stock in there. So we're good to go. So anyways, you guys have a good day out there. Wherever you're sheltering in place, whatever you're doing, if you're an essential worker and you have to go out, be safe. Don't panic. Don't get into the fear mongering. Just follow the goofy guidelines they got over this. That they've got in place right now. It'll be over soon. We'll get back to normal. We'll be better than ever before. There's a lot of hope, a lot of purpose coming out, and we just got to take stock of this, that we're watching vigilant of our public servants, that they're not pushing through agendas during these times of crisis and somewhat invented or even either fully invented or at least completely overblown crises that they're using to bring in bullshit that's to control us, to take away. There's one county or wherever it was where they, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, don't panic. But there's one county they were shutting down gun sales, and we had, we were, all of us guys that work together and stuff, we were assessing ammo counts and making sure we had enough ammunition, and everybody's thinking about storable food, and they're thinking about a lot of other stuff. Well, the thinking people are. The non-thinking people went and grabbed toilet paper and hand wipes. I want to make sure I got enough ammo in my 9mm. Thank you, because thank you for going and getting all the toilet paper. If I need some, I'll show up with my gun and borrow a few rolls, okay? But if I took it out to my Porta-John, there's too many rolls. I've got 3 extra rolls stacked up on the little shelf in my Porta-John outside the man cave. I'm like, what are you people? You're a bunch of idiots, man. Just, you panic shopped, and for what? And there's the air compressor. Mom warned me. She's like, I don't know if you guys can even hear that, but I've been doing a bunch of nailing, and so the air compressor's running over there. I should have cut it off a minute ago. Anyways, love you guys. Look forward to getting back on here. Hopefully, I'm going to try to do this each morning during the sequestering, during the shelter-in-place rule. And I'll talk to you guys soon. And so with that, let me see if the outro is going to work. If it does, and then I'll talk to you guys hopefully tomorrow. This is my brain.
Dad, that's an egg.
Yeah, that's an egg.
Honey.
Dude.
That's an egg.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That's an egg.
It's a metaphor.
Yeah, but that's an egg.
That's an egg.
All right, Jeremy, I hate to break it to you. That's an egg.
I know my brain is not actually an egg, okay? It's a metaphor.
Metaphor or not, that's not your brain.
It's just an egg.
Una cerveza para mí. My egg is my brain.
It's still an egg.
Can I at least have some bacon, maybe some sausage with that egg, though?
Oh, I want some bacon.
I don't know, man. I'm not good at this shit.
I want crepes.
Okay.
Can I have some bacon and pancakes with that egg?
I'll take it with scrambled eggs and cheese.